Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we're going to be looking at my election model and tracing it back to 2008 and to see why Donald Trump is going to win in an electoral college landslide. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And before we get started with the video, please make sure to go ahead and donate to the Michigan and Pennsylvania poll crowdfunding. We are crowdfunding to conduct polling in these two states, so any support would be greatly appreciated. And so getting back to the video, we see Donald Trump in my latest election model is winning 347 electoral college votes to Joe Biden's 191 electoral college votes. And we see, the former president come pretty close in Hawaii, come pretty close in Illinois, come very close in a state like New Jersey. However, states like Colorado kind of trend to the left. It's still a likely margin of victory, even in a pretty Republican national environment. This is a plus 8.7 national popular vote victory for Donald Trump, which would be the biggest victory out of any of the elections that I've modeled back for a pretty long time. And so that's why you would see such a big landslide for the former president here. We even see states like, California get within 12 because of the Asian vote shifting to the right. And that's what we see in the demographic modeling in a place like California and Hawaii. That Asian vote is really shifting voters to the right here, including in a place like New Jersey. But what I've done is I've actually traced my model back the last 4 elections to see what they show for the results, and we'll start off with 2008. So we're going to go to 2008. This is the electoral college result for that election. It has Barack Obama winning 338 electoral college votes to John McCain's 200 electoral college votes, with only 2 states, Indiana and North Carolina, being correct. Now, I'm going to break down how this works. Essentially, what it does is it basically tracks the 1992 election results all the way to 2004. It finds the swing and the trend from each one. And then what it does is it basically looks at the polling average. It looks at the demographic pool. And what it does, it basically factors in all these results. And it also factors in the RCP aggregate. So, for example, Barack Obama was leading the RCP aggregate by 7.6 percentage points on election day. That swings the popular vote 10 points to the right. And we always have the incumbent president's approval rating. So, for example, at the time, George W. Bush was the incumbent president. He had a minus 40.5 percentage point approval rating. That is abysmal for McCain as of right now. That is a really bad approval rating. We even see states like Arkansas are actually lean Democrat. Even Alaska is a lean Democrat state. So the first side of the model is actually really bad. But what I also have is I have a model that basically tracks the average shift between the same time frame and kind of finds the predicted vote relative to the nation and kind of gives like an estimated margin of what that would look like. And we find this using the difference in their approval rating. So on election day, Barack Obama's approval rating was 6.7 percentage points higher than John McCain's. And so when you go over here, we get our final results. When you average out this column and you average out this column down here, you end up getting the results on the side here. And the popular vote was pretty spot on. I mean, Barack Obama here wins the popular vote by 7.5 percentage points, give or take, which is pretty fascinating because he ended up winning it by 7.2. So it's almost right on the money. And then we get the margins here. So that is how the model works. And so what we do is we see this. We see states like Missouri are competitive. States like North Carolina are competitive. However, states like Arizona, if we actually go to the real results, this is the actual map for 2008. It only got 2 states wrong. However, we do see really bad misses in, example, Montana. It was like about a 10-point victory. Here, it's literally a 2-point win. So that is a pretty bad miss. Even in a place like Indiana, Obama actually won it by 1. But then we see here, in a place like Indiana, the margin of victory is actually like 10 points in the model. So you clearly see that going back a couple cycles, it's going to be hard for the model to pick up certain trends like that could possibly happen even with polling data. However, the model does give a generally good idea of where the election is going to pretty much head to. That is basically the point of this. It basically kind of gives a general idea of where the election is heading. And I don't think it actually did that bad of a job. And so, yeah, right here we see Barack Obama with 338 to 200. We probably could have been able to guess at the time, since Barack Obama's approval rating with African Americans, and his turnout would have been pretty high. We could have deduced that North Carolina possibly could have gone blue. And based on the fact that McCain was from Arizona, we probably could have said, hey, it's definitely not going to be close. It's probably going to end up being a lot more redder than that. So we could have probably deduced that at the time. However, I do think it's pretty interesting that it does show a pretty close race there. But again, it's tracking back trends from 1992 going to right now, and those results do affect the margin there. So that's why you kind of see a pretty lopsided, victory compared to 2008, where he actually won it by 8.5. So that is a pretty big error in the state of Arizona. Now, the next one, we go to 2012, and this to me was pretty cool because this result was super accurate. The only thing it actually got wrong was Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, and it's the exact same thing. RCP, the swing, you get Barack Obama's approval rating, and what you do here is when the incumbent president is a Democrat, you have to turn this into a negative sign. You turn that into a negative sign, and then when the incumbent president is a Republican, you have to turn that into a positive side. That is the only thing that actually changes within the equation of the model. Then we kind of weigh the previous results a little different. We have the favorability rating, the swing and trend, and then of the popular vote, and then we have the individual state and individual state swing and trend from that period of time, and then that's basically what you get in the Electoral College. And so I think it's pretty fascinating to see it being all broken down. And then we see here Florida is a 1.5 percentage point victory for Barack Obama. If we go to 2012, it ended up being 0.88. That's actually not that off. That is not that super off. That's like less than a point off. If we go to example, Iowa 6.4%, the margin was 5.8. Like, that's not terribly off. If we go to, for example, Minnesota 8.2, the margin was 7.7. So some of these are not actually that inaccurate. Nebraska's 2nd was the only one that was pretty off, but again, it is picking up on previous trends and previous results. And the last election did have Barack Obama winning it very narrowly, so that's why you kind of saw that happen. Even in Ohio, though, you see Ohio, Obama won it by 3. And if we go to Ohio, right now, we actually see 2.9. So it's right on the money. And the popular vote was only like a point off in favor of Obama, by the way. And that was because some of the bluer states were a lot more Democrat in the forecast for whatever reason. Even California, you see California 23 points. If you look here, 23. It's literally right on the money. New York, 28. If we go to the state of New York, we'll actually see 26. So again, a lot of these are actually not that inaccurate. Now, the Dakota margins are a little bit iffy. Wisconsin, it's like rounds out at 10.8. The actual margin was 6.9. So in some of the Rust Belt states, it is a little off. It does overestimate Obama in some of the Rust Belt states. Pennsylvania, 8 points. He ended up winning it by 5.4. So again, it's like, yeah, in the Rust Belt, it's a little bit incorrect there, which I find pretty fascinating to see that. North Carolina is still Republican. Here we see it did go, it goes till, but in 2012 we did see Barack Obama win it by 2. But again, not the worst error. It's like about a 1.5 off. New Hampshire was a 5.6 percentage point win. If we go to New Hampshire, 7.8. So at the end of the day, the margins in some of these states are pretty spot on or just a tiny bit off. Now, 2016 is pretty interesting because this is the map it predicts. It's basically if Romney just did a little better. That's literally all it is. It has Hillary Clinton winning 285 electoral college votes to Donald Trump's 253. And what you're going to notice with this model is that the populist candidate always tends to either perform right along where the polling is or gets overestimated. That's usually what you see happen. Barack Obama, 2 states off. The popular vote was pretty accurate. In both of the Obama elections, the model got the popular vote pretty spot on. Even in 2016, the model's popular vote was off by about 2 points. So you saw that Clinton did actually get overestimated by about 2 points here. So you see that the populist candidate does actually get underestimated in all the cycles, and actually shows Florida being a tilt Republican margin there. And so we see here Donald Trump with 253 to Clinton's 285. I kind of just went ahead and went through the margins again, and this is the corrected results. Clinton actually gets 300 to Trump's 238, so it is off. Obviously, he didn't get the winner correct, but again, polling data really oversampled Democrats that cycle. So for the most part, it's not the worst. I mean, people were saying Clinton was going to win plus 350. So to be honest with you, it really wouldn't have been too bad. Now the Arizona margins, Georgia, would have been pretty wrong. Like, this definitely would have been one of the crazier models. Even Texas is actually safe. And yes, that is correct. The margin is like plus 16 for Trump there. So this model would have been pretty off for the 2016 election somewhat, but it does show the Rust Belt closer than the previous elections. North Carolina is kind of a swing state, sort of. Florida does go red, so it's not the worst, but it kind of gave you an idea that it still was going to be a somewhat competitive election for the most part. Now, going to 2020, we see Joe Biden here gets 334 electoral college votes to Donald Trump's 204. So you see that the populist candidate, that being Obama at the time, or you have Donald Trump, usually gets either underestimated or it's right on the money. It's either or. With Obama, at least, you saw 2012 was basically right on the money. And then in 2008, he got underestimated in the model, and he was the more populist candidate. Donald Trump in both of these election models has gone seriously underestimated both times, actually more than Barack Obama did. So when you look at this, you see, okay, well, technically Arizona is correct because it was tilt blue, and it is pretty close. And Georgia, you could say, is within margin of error. Texas, Iowa, and Florida, you could, or Iowa, Ohio, and Texas, you could say are within margin of error. So realistically, this model is actually not the worst model in the world, because some of these are actually within margin of error for the most part. The only part where the model got it severely wrong is, Florida. That is the one that is pretty off, because really North Carolina being tilt blue, I mean, the state was a 1.3 percentage point victory for Trump. So like, to say that it could have gone tilt blue is not that unrealistic, to be honest. It's not that crazy to say it could have gone blue based on a model, because it was literally like, it was basically within margin of error. So that margin in North Carolina is actually not as bad as the one for 2016. That one was pretty bad because Trump ended up winning it by 3.7, and it was tilt blue, so that was a pretty bad call. And then Georgia here is actually within margin of error. Georgia's actually pretty close, because Georgia actually ends up being a really narrow margin there. It actually ends up being like 0.6 for Trump, and Biden won it by 0.2, so that was literally under a point. Florida is the one where it's like really bad. Florida in the forecast is actually a 2.9 percentage point victory for Biden, and that's not what happened at all. That is actually not what happened at all. That is actually like a really bad margin for him. And so clearly we see that it is not looking great for Donald Trump at all. And Joe Biden got very overestimated in this model as of right now. And so now when you essentially look at this, we basically got the margin of error in every single state. So we basically got the error of how incorrect it was here, and got the error of how incorrect it was on the bottom. And what we did, which I thought was pretty cool, what we actually did is we ended up going over here, and we applied those errors to the model here as of right now. And now we see the exact same thing. Trump leads the aggregate by 4.3. That swings the popular vote 8.8% from the last election. Biden's approval rating minus 17.2. And Donald Trump is ahead in favorability 2.7 percentage points. We have the demographic model, which is actually conducted based off of modeling from polling that's actually come out. And then we have the 2008 presidential election results right here, the 2020 results. So it kind of tracks the trend for the most part in all of these states. And when we basically model it out, this is what we get in the electoral college. So essentially, guys, this is what you see. You see Donald Trump go out there and basically completely demolish Joe Biden in the electoral college. You see him get 347 electoral college votes. Obviously, New Mexico, Virginia, New Hampshire, some of these states are a little bit close and they really could go either way. So it could be anywhere from Trump winning 347 to effectively him winning 325 electoral college votes. Now, again, there could be massive swings because, again, in 2016, obviously the model was pretty off. In 2012, you did have it pretty spot on, but the Indiana margin wasn't too accurate. Missouri's wasn't too accurate. North Carolina was off by about 3. In 2008, it wasn't exactly spot on. So the margins may not be exact, but they do give a pretty good idea of where the models are going as of right now. I am going to be tweaking this model as time goes on in order to perfect it as much as possible to try to get it to be as accurate as I can. But the fact that Donald Trump is up by this much in the electoral college in this model, whereas in the past 2 cycles he was down in the models, where in both elections he actually narrowly won both, that is a really big sign that something is going on here. The fact that he got underestimated twice in the same model that I'm using right now for 2024, the fact that he got underestimated 2 times, and now he's going up against the candidate that he actually got underestimated by even more again, and that same candidate is down 25 points from their favorability rating from 2020. That is a horrible sign for Joe Biden and the Democrats. I generally believe Donald Trump is going to win the election really big. Now, again, these may not be exact. Like, New Mexico is literally within margin of error. Virginia is within margin of error. New Hampshire is within margin of error. But the fact that it's this big of a shift, and the fact that the popular vote on here is like plus 8, plus 9, leads me to believe that Donald Trump may actually be doing even better than this. He could possibly be doing even better than this. I mean, we'll see. Time will tell. But as of right now, things are not looking great for the Biden camp whatsoever. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.